LeLaLes Fluid Love is a lesbian dating show that released in April this year on YouTube. The show focuses on seven different Chinese lesbians and was filmed across 7 days in a villa in Thailand because the creator and director of the show, Ashley Jiang, was denied by the Chinese government to film within the country. LeLaLes is one of the few high quality production lesbian dating shows that exists, but the actual stakes within the show are pretty chill, leading to really natural and realistic conversations between cast members, with the cast members themselves pointing out how the show feels more like a docu-series than a traditional dating show. I spoke to Ashley Jiang about how she was able to pull this off and all the good and the bad that came along with trying to bring her vision to life. Hello, lovely to finally be able to meet you. I'm so excited to talk about your show, which I think it's pronounced LaLaLes, Fluid Love. I hope I said it right.
LeLaLes. LeLaLes.
LeLaLes. Okay, cool,
Yes.
cool. I want to start with the even initial idea of the show. I believe that you had said, I was even taking a look at your like social media channels, and like you've been talking about like how the initial intent was to make it like a dance theme show since you are a dancer yourself, and
Mm.
how that sort of pivoted into becoming like a more not traditional style dating show, because there's still a lot about this show that's super different from other dating shows that I'll get into later. But yeah, I guess I kind of wanted to know like what made you want to pivot into this style of show.
Yeah, totally. So actually on my social media, I said like if there's a season two, I want to do a dance show. So not
Mm.
the other way around. But yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So I have been doing content about China's queer community for almost a decade. So back in 2016, when I was still back in school, because I grew up in China and I went to LA for school. And over there, I was like super inspired by the whole environment. And also, I went there in 2015, and that was the year when same-sex marriage got legalized in the US. So, like, super inspired. And also, I was volunteering at the Los Angeles LGBT Center, and I met with a lot of Chinese queer activists, and their stories really inspired me. So, that's how I started my project Out China. So it's a nonprofit multimedia storytelling project about China's queer community. And like the original idea was just to share because like our stories are so marginalized in China, like queer content is so heavily censored. But I was living in the US and I just felt like, oh, I want to get the stories out because I majored in communication. So that's how I started Out China. And I have been doing like short documentaries, explainer videos, and podcasts for, yeah, just on and off for 10 years because it's just like a passion project of mine. It didn't give me any money. It's just like I did it as a side passion. And yeah, and then last year, because I was freelancing, I work as a filmmaker and I was freelancing and I was in between gigs and I was like, oh, I really want to do something meaningful again because back then I was just making commercials. They were super boring, even though they paid the bills. And I was like watching the Japanese gay dating show called The Boyfriend on Netflix. I love it, like super inspiring. And also there was another like a Korean lesbian dating show that was aired last year in March, I think. It's called Together. So I was like, oh, there is like more and more queer dating shows of like of Asian heritage and I just feel like, yeah, I'm not necessarily a fan of dating shows per se because I can't stand those straight dating shows like too dramatic, super
Yeah.
scripted, just like drama for the drama's sake. It's just like so I can't stand a second. But I was like, oh, yeah, I just want to keep making stories about China's queer community. But documentary is not that accessible. Like
Mm.
people, I don't feel like people like to just sit and watch a serious documentary, even though it's super meaningful. So I was like, oh, why not make a dating show? That's just how the idea started. So yeah, I didn't have any experience making a dating show, so I really just went with my intuition.
Yeah, but that's such a interesting thing. Like, and even just like going into it with no experience or even not even necessarily like a gravitation towards the dating show format, but like it's interesting how someone with a fresh perspective is able to look at it. And I think that's where I also want to talk a little bit about like the fact that this was a publicly like fundraised show. And it took the help of a lot of different people to be able to put the show together. And even the fact that, despite the fact that that money was for the crew that was on the show, working on the show, a lot of them even like decided to not do it for any pay or do it for like maybe less pay than they normally would. And that in and of itself is really inspiring because it goes to show like how much they realize a lot of your crew, I believe, being queer women as well, or like queer as well, they realize that something like this is a really important initiative, and it's very needed to also get queer content out in these formats that are familiar to us, like the dating show. I mean, I know people are talking about Love Island a bunch. They have like a 50% increase in their viewership. It is a format that is working for some reason, right? Like, I actually think that the fact that there wasn't any ulterior motive in the show, like there wasn't any reward rather in the show, it was just like get to know these queer women and start with maybe developing a friendship as opposed to like a relationship, but like, experiment as you please. So yeah, I guess I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the fundraising and the money aspect of it or the lack thereof. Like, do you think that there was obviously an aspect that you couldn't fulfill because of the lack of funds, generally speaking, in queer art? But do you also think that that kind of had like a good side to it too, given that the result is so like organic and natural and very, very insightful, which I'm gonna get into the characters as well. But I'd love to know your take on the whole like money and budgeting aspect of it and the balance between like good and bad in that whole thing.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, as you said, we did a crowdfunding last year and raised over 56,000 US dollars from over 300 people, which was super remarkable. It's really the love from the community because, again, like this kind of storytelling, because if nobody else tells our stories, there simply won't exist this kind of stories. So it was like truly a huge blessing. But also, as you know, like we are far from breaking even because we really pursue the high production value. So it's really challenging from like a managerial perspective. Yes, we had a lot of volunteers on set, but for a manager, it's like a leadership kind of management nightmare, to be honest. Because like if you want to pursue efficiency, if you want to really maintain a high quality, you need that kind of transactional industrial level kind of standards to make things really work. So actually, I'm still dealing with all the mess afterwards. That's something I don't really showcase with
Yeah.
people. Because I feel like I just leave the misery like by myself with my friends, with my loved ones. I
Mhm.
don't think the world needs to see that, but it is really hellish to say the least. So yeah, so it's like really a blast project, and we had a lot of volunteers, and the resources were really, really limited, and that's why we were only able to shoot for 7 days, actually
Mhm.
6 days. And I think because of that, it's really hard to let the chemistry happen organically because we don't have a
Yeah.
script. We don't force them to play like those drinking games right off the bat. So that's why it feels really friendship, very documentary, because that's my intuition and that's my kind of storytelling. And that's the beauty of it. But also that leads to a lot of controversies because, as you know, like the finally it's me and another participant got together, and that's just really what happened. So with no manufacturing and the storyline led to this kind of ending. And some people like it and some people really hate it.
Hmm.
So they're not used to this kind of breaking the fourth wall kind of format. So I will say it's very limited resources, and it's truly a miracle that we could pull it off. But that's also, I keep saying actually on social media that I will never do it again because independent filmmaking just really takes years of your life. So yeah, I
I
don't know if that
mean,
answers your question.
no, it absolutely did. Like I could feel the stress from multiple points, right? Like you had to even think about your location of where you were going to film this based off of the stress of, the state not allowing you to film within it, just starting from there, right? And then to actually deal with filming the show and then the aftermath altogether. And, I think that even with the plot line between you and one of the contestants, and quite frankly, out of the seven contestants, I think there were four of them that had ended up voting for someone on the crew, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I think it was Stella that said it best when she was like,
然后我也会觉得说，剧组也有很多非常有魅力的人，认真的女人真的很有魅力，对我来说。
fact that on the show the characters are so aware, like even you like not for a moment do you hesitate to not talk about, like I was the one that like and I've put the show together, like how do we actually deal with this dynamic.
对我来说，最重要的是 power dynamics，因为我听到和了解到和去挖它的东西太多太多了。我们甚至现在都有个相机一直对着它拍。
Do you feel bad? Guilty?
Yeah, I just feel very unbalanced.
Self-reflection and self-awareness amongst the cast in general is really, really something that was really, really refreshing to watch. So yeah, again, like with that, how is that? Like, I mean, I know that like even there are characters like Rachel who went into it going like, I think she said something along the lines that she had already fell in love with someone on the crew before that. So just the dynamic between the cast and the crew, how was it for those 6 or 7 days that you were in that villa?
Yeah. Well, first off, I really appreciate what you said. It truly warmed my heart because, I don't know if you know this on like the se comment section like episode 3, but it was
Mm.
like super polarizing opinions, like some people love it, some people like hate it to the core. And I just realized most of the people who have like the kind of openness or who have some kind of critical thinking or who, I don't know, just like I feel like people who are more empathetic and who are willing to just really jump out of the box a little bit can really appreciate my creative perspective. But a lot of other people, I just feel like they simply don't like the idea of switching from like a dating show to a documentary kind of series.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see like, like people have such divided opinions. But yeah, so I feel like the dynamic between the crew and the cast members is very interesting because from the get-go, I wanted to create a very safe environment, and that comes from my documentary filmmaking background. Because when we make documentaries, it's like we need to build a trust and build a kind of very safe environment with our interviewees. And that's why like most of the crew members are queer women and a lot of them are single and a lot of them are hot. Well, so that's why that was inevitable. But actually, when I first started off, I didn't expect this to happen at all because I was caught up in all the other stuff. So when we put 23 Chinese lesbians under the same roof in a summer villa in northern Thailand, the chemistry, the flirting, the relationships just became like super, super messy and hot. So as you said, like Rachel, she fell for a crew member, and actually something like there has been other controversy going on, but mainly on Chinese social media. Actually, that's super super unfortunate. But during that 1 week of filming, people were having fun, like a lot of flirting. People were having a great time. But again, because I feel like for me, this is my very proud creative baby, but also from like a CEO slash director slash showrunner perspective, it's a lot of hardship. Like the boundary is blurred, and me, I indeed admit it and talk so much about power dynamics, but
Mhm.
I have this innate power within me because I get to direct the storyline, and I did have a relationship with one of the contestants. So people are like, oh, even though you talk about power dynamics, you still have that power with you.
Yeah.
So it's actually kind of a dilemma that there's no way I can address. But again, I was really pursuing like authentic storytelling. I'm all about like truth and honesty. But I just realized people want to consume something entertaining and they want to consume intimacy and they don't want to put that much of work into, they're just like a dating show. Like while they have their meals, they just watch it. So
Yeah.
they don't want to put too much heart or thoughts into it. So
I
yeah.
think this also sort of leads me to like your actual cast of women and how were you able to cast that?
Yeah, totally. So actually, the whole casting process was like a month and a half, like super short, because usually, again, when we compare it to those industry level production, like Ultimatum, Korea Ultimatum,
Hmm.
like their casting process is like 1 year and a half, and they have a casting team of over like 13 people, I believe. But we just, we only had like 3 or 4 like people, and also we work together remotely. So all the casting process happened online. And at the very beginning, we posted like the casting call both on Instagram, but also on Chinese social media. But very quickly, our post got banned. Like our whole account got wiped out like really fast. So we just really relied on word of mouth, and eventually we got around 100 applications. And yeah, so basically for each person, it's like 2 rounds of interview. Everything happened over Zoom, and we were just trying to we have a lot of wishful thinking when it comes to matchmaking, because we were like, oh, tell me about your what's your ex-girlfriend's like, and we're just really trying to figure out what's everybody's type. But then eventually we realized people really don't tell you what they truly think and truly like. They're like, oh, I like androgynous, I can do whatever. Lie, they never tell you the truth. So yeah, I feel like matchmaking is really God's work. I don't know. So
Like they
yeah,
have to have like at these big budget productions, I'm like, you have to have like sociologists, like psychologists,
a
like
hundred
all kinds
percent
of, like people who are getting into these people's brains and trying to figure out like, okay, what is the subliminal thing that you're not saying?
Exactly.
So I
Yeah,
totally see what you mean in terms of people not
yeah.
fully expressing because attraction is it's an interesting
It,
topic. Like
it's
it
very
really very
mysterious.
mysterious, never know how it works, especially with queer people. It's like there's a whole now other new set of like facets that you look for in someone, like aspects, qualities that you look for in people that you've just unlocked because you're just out of the whole heteronormative zone. So it's like you're not looking for like, oh, okay, tall, like whatever. It's not like that's not the way that you're looking at it anymore. It makes it way more specific because queer women have a tendency to be very, very specific. That's
Totally.
definitely for sure.
Yeah, also I feel like I named the show Fluid Love because I want to show like the diverse representation of the community, right? But also I feel like queerness itself is very fluid, it's very expensive. So and also a lot of the contestants they're very young. So maybe, they didn't even know they would fall for this kind of women and queer people. So I would really say this show is kind of like a social experiment, intimacy experiment. We invited them to this summer villa, and some people who are more mature, more sophisticated, like Tianshu, she's like eventually she's like, oh, I don't believe in dating somebody within just 6 days. And I actually love her statement so much because it's actually really it's like smashing the kind of stereotypical dating show format, because people know it's not real, but people still consume it. But here her statement just like smash it right at the face, and I love that for her.
Like it's so refreshing to see that the cast is just allowed to acknowledge the weirdness of like all of this happening on the show,
Totally.
right? Like, because you're very quick, the viewer can be very quick to blame this person for things going wrong, or, that person was like crazy and was saying something and acting another way. Like, of course, there are some maybe personality traits that you can tell, there's some amount of reality, but you know that for the most part, like when a scene starts, your director or someone has told you what the prompt is and what you're doing, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Like, so
like for those big productions, they're actually not allowed to talk with each other once the camera is shut off. Like when their mic is not on, they can't talk with each other.
crazy.
So everything is super militarized, but that's the most efficient way for production, because like if their chemistry already happened off camera, then there's nothing for the production company to show. So like for us, it's the opposite way, because when we shut the cameras, they just smoke together, they chit chat, and we're like, shit, we can't film this. So yeah,
Like it's just
once
a day
again.
in the life, like it's a vlog at this point.
I know. So some people like, why is certainly becoming like a vlog kind of style because like we don't have, they just love chatting. They just want to
Yeah.
bond with each other and so it's very interesting, as you
I
said.
even remember another scene with Tianshu. They were in the pool,
Uh,
and I think she'd said something like,
啊，无聊啊，我们中国人好含蓄，外国人拉拉客户不起。会干我啊，come on。
oh my
that's
God. And I was
hilarious.
like, that's so funny. Like, because literally, like, it is kind of funny to see, like, how everybody's just, like, sort of standing on their
I
own.
know, I
Like,
know. The
it, the
awkwardness.
awkwardness, like, it was captured so perfectly. And yeah, like, that in that moment, I knew that there's an audience for even just this, right? Like, even just seeing this extremely authentic depiction of someone who may or may not like someone, but they're just like awkward about the whole situation. Like that is so real, and just trust that there's an audience for that as well. I really appreciate your position of the lesbian crisis manager in this whole show, not simply the director. I think you described this as an experiment on intimacy, and like I fully agree that it really does feel like queer at its heart in the sense that it feels like an experiment. Like it truly feels like this is a social experiment and not what they claim to be on these like big budget productions where they always started with like, oh yeah, this is a social experiment. It's like, no, this is all like very, very rehearsed. But
Yeah.
with your show, like that is what truly feels like an experiment, not just for the people in front of the camera, but the people behind the camera. Appreciate all the hardships you've been through to be able to get through to the side. So thank you so much for the show and thank you for the
Oh,
interview. If you have any like future works that you want to talk about, please feel free. I'd love to hear about them as well.
totally. Thank you so much for what you said. It truly warms my heart, it just feels so great. It feels really seen, like because I feel like for like a content creator, yes, I have a lot of, good comments, a lot of love, but most of the time those negative comments, those trolls really sting. So it's truly
Yeah.
like yeah, it really warms my heart to hear what you just said, because I feel so seen and so appreciated. And that's why I make this work at the first place.
Yeah, yeah. And like trust that it's making its way. I mean, we are sitting in like Goa, India, and we've found your work. So just know that it's making its way out there to people like across the world. But
Oh, thank
thank you so much.
you.
Thank you for the interview. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Ashley. Take
thank you so much,
care.
Anna.
Have
Take
a good
care.
night.
Have a good one. Bye
Bye.
bye.